So how do you handle that? How do you handle that struggle of like knowing this is what you need to be doing for yourself, just creatively, career-wise, and also like grappling with, are there crippling feelings of guilt being away from home for large stretches at a time, or you feel like you're doing what you have to be doing?
Well, I mean, you've known me long enough to know that I'm always very honest with stuff, and it's a real struggle because I can take a step back and go, I'm 42 years old. I had my own TV show, HBO special. I've been in some shows, some movies. I'm about to publish my 5th book. I'm like, objectively, This is pretty successful. Like, I'm not a mainstream name, but I have been a working artist at a pretty healthy level for many years. But I still, the money from the road, like, we need it, like it's a couple of years ago, I was doing really well. Now I'm doing solid, but we need it. It's mortgage money. It's daycare. It's preschool fees money. It's car payment money, and it sucks. It sucks for my wife. It sucks for me. I've recently realized, like, I think one of the big issues. This book I'm writing, I'm talking with a lot of my other friends who are dads, and a lot of people keep bringing up the words introverted and extroverted, and I've realized that's one of the huge things about having a kid is, like, I'm a pretty introverted guy. So to me, going to the airport is a drag. And like, I actually get kind of anxious having to go in front of crowds, even though it's what I've done my whole life. Whereas my wife is this huge extrovert. So it does create this situation where she's like, man, you get to still go on the road and live that life. She's an artist herself, musician, dancer, Broadway, off-Broadway stuff. She toured with the National Touring Company of Rent. She toured with her punk band. She's like, I would kill to go back on the road. I'm like, I kind of hate it. And meanwhile, she's home with the kid because that's just how the ball broke as far as which of us was working when he was born and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, it sucks. So the FaceTime calls are a drag. There was I did the Edinburgh Festival this year. That was kind of a disaster. And halfway through, there's one night on FaceTime where my son was being moody, and I was like, Cal, you got to just talk to me, man. And he said, well, I'm never going to see you again, so why? And I was just like, this sucks. And the honest answer is, I'm like, I don't know. I can't decide. Sometimes I get depressed talking about this. Sometimes I feel like it's right on target. Like, there's a part of me that for the first time in my life is going, I think I might need to just go find a job that gives me health insurance. And that's not to say that I'm going to quit creative stuff, but I don't know if the entire infrastructure of my family can rely on my creative pursuits anymore. Like, I get my health insurance through Screen Actors Guild acting jobs, and I don't act all that much. And you have to earn $26,000 a year in union jobs to get insurance for yourself and your family. That's a hefty chunk of change,
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure. I still do well enough on my podcast and touring that we're comfortable, but if I have to start paying for insurance out of pocket, it's going to be a disaster, and it's the major source of stress in my life. So I got back from Edinburgh, and it was kind of a disaster this year. I applied to grad school. I'm going to see if I get in, and then I'm going to decide if I'm going to go after that. And I've actually been talking with a few. It ties in with career suicide because over the years, there's been a bunch of different mental health organizations that I've done work for, speaking stuff and, just general support and kind of just being on each other's radar. And I was talking with some friends from one of them, and they were like, we might be able to just give you a job. And I'm like, is this like the ultimate defeat if I just go take a job to have insurance and work a 9 to 5, literally for the first time since 2002? Or is it a sign that I'm growing up and there's a level of responsibility before? Plus, also, like, I'm the asshole who's always refused to move to LA, and it just makes it harder. I've managed to make it work, but like, if I want to move out to the sticks in New Jersey, it's a really good life for my kid, but I couldn't afford, we could not afford, LA is so expensive. Like, he couldn't have the life he has out there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move to LA someday and he's going to have a shittier life so I can be on TV. It just feels selfish and silly. What do you think that, because you're also an artist and a dad, and I'm like right now it all goes through me. And this is not to say like I wish my wife would get a job. Like she wants to be working, but it's also that fucked up thing of, well, we'd have to pay for so much more childcare that if you got a job, most of what you earn would just go directly into paying someone else to raise our kid. What is the point of that? So we're in this weird rock and hard place situation that all comes down to fucking health insurance.
Yeah. I'm getting health insurance now through, so my wife is a psychotherapist and she was finishing up some classes. She went to grad school. She was getting insurance from grad school and then figured out that she could keep getting really good insurance by taking just one class a semester. And I was able to piggyback off her for a while. And then that kind of dried up to the point where like I needed to enroll in my own class, which I was like, fuck it, man. I'm an art school dropout. I'm not going to be able to handle a real college course. Like there's no way, even if I devote all my time and energy, there's no way. And she was like, well, if you want health insurance, I was like, I don't know how badly I want health insurance. And she was like, you can't, it's irresponsible. You can't not have health insurance. That's insane. So I took this last spring. I took a creative writing class with SUNY Canton, and I was terrified, dude. I was absolutely terrified. I was like, this is going to be an embarrassment. I'm going to realize how dumb I am and incapable of having any hope of having any sort of career in the real world outside of comedy. And I was like, but I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to give it my best. And I did great. I got a 95 in this class. And
they give you health insurance?
Yeah. Yep.
What is this scam? How do I get in on this? I'll take a creative writing class.
Take a class. And you can take, SUNY? And you can, yeah. Yep. And I did great. I mean, I think most of the people in my class, English was a second language. So I really, I look like fucking Hemingway by comparison.
Just the master of the written word. I'll get in on this scam. Man. I'm going to follow up with you on information on which schools offer health insurance for this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then just try to drag out my secondary education for literally my entire life.
Right. And I thought, well, shit, if I have to keep doing this, because I dropped out, I went to SVA for almost 2 years. I dropped out in the 11th hour of finishing my second semester my sophomore year. And I was like, I might actually get a bachelor's degree by the time I'm like 65. From
Just
make
it last. Make it last, baby. Make it last.
Yeah. It's a slow crawl, but I'm going for it. But yeah, I'm in kind of like an opposite situation because, my wife is doing great. She's making a kid, especially these last couple of years. I mean, I joke all the time that the pandemic has been great for us because people are sadder than ever, So
right.
She's just
and all the telehealth
in.
stuff opened up and became much more accepted socially and legally and all that too.
Sure, absolutely. So she's doing great, but she's also, it's an exhausting job. She has to listen to people talk about their trauma all day long, not in a comedic friend context,
Right.
And it takes its toll on her, So there's like, it's this balance of like letting her follow her career pursuits, whereas I'm still like in stay-at-home dad mode, even though my son's in school. I wake up, bring him to school in the morning. I'm with him from 2 to 6 pretty much every day. So like, yeah, being on the road is, if I can't justify it either monetarily, there's so many times that I'll come home with my road gig money and it's pennies by comparison. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just chucking a couple of crumpled up dollar bills on the table. Be like, I provide too. She's like, oh, that's cute. You tried. So like, it makes more sense. I mean, what she's able to make in her career is so much more than what I'm able to make. But at the same time, like I remember talking to you on the phone. Was it like 2 years ago? Remember that? We talked on the phone for a little bit, and I was kind of having a nervous breakdown. I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I felt like I was gaining steam, and then pandemic shit kind of leveled me, along with moving into a new apartment, and you really kind of talked me off a ledge, man, because like all the success that you've had, and you said to me, you're like, yeah, I might go apply for a job at a comic book store selling Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
remember that?
There was a gaming store in a town nearby when I moved out here, and the guy was like, if you want a job, I'll give you a job. And I was seriously considering just going and taking some hourly wages at this, it was this store that had like kids would go and play D&D in the back, and they'd sell, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards. And I wound up not doing it, but it's really the whole loop of like mortgage, health insurance. It's not as fun and charming once you have a kid. Just when you have a kid and there's a real consequence that extends beyond you, where like years ago it'd be like, if I break my leg, I guess I'll just like not pay those bills, and they'll send a collection agency after me, and my credit will get messed up, and I'll never be able to buy a house and whatever, and you think like that when you're in your 20s as an artist.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, there's a little boy here, and like I feed him food. And everything about his life I'm responsible for. Maybe I shouldn't have dicked around for 2 decades doing improv. Maybe I shouldn't have just done improv for 2 decades of my life. Maybe I should have built some skills that apply in the world at large. But yeah.
I hear you, dude. Being an adult is tough. It really is.
I think so. And I also think being an artist, artists like to complain, and there's many people with less cushy situations. But I will say, they just keep finding ways. Like now we're at a point as artists too, where it's like, oh, it used to be that it was really hard to sell a special. And then all of a sudden Netflix was buying tons of specials. And now there's so many specials that everybody's just got to put it up for free. You got to put your specials up for free now, and it's like,
yeah.
Oh, well, it goes up for free and you get a few million views, and it means you'll do better selling tickets on the road. Okay. Well, now also most of the venues are owned by Ticketmaster, and Ticketmaster and Live Nation are the same company, I believe, and they can put these arbitrary fees on all your tickets. So if you advertise a $20 ticket, the person buying it's actually going to spend $35 after all the fees and taxes, and they don't look bad. You look bad. You look like the person selling a ticket that's prohibitively expensive for younger people or people who also need to get a babysitter. Like, you look bad. Okay, well, you're still selling lots of tickets so you can sell merch. So it's like, okay, so now we have to give away most of our work for free, so we have the pleasure and honor of being t-shirt salesmen who leave our families behind so we can go sleep in shitty econo lodges on the sides of highways near the airport. Like, that's the other thing about the touring life for me right now is like, I'll have a gig in Portland, Oregon at 8 p.m. and I'm sitting here playing this really dangerous game. It used to be like, oh, my first gig's on Friday. Maybe I'll go out Wednesday night and just hang out Thursday and check out Portland. Now it's like, no, I found a flight that lands at 5 p.m. Portland time, and I can get right to the gig. And then I do Friday night and Saturday night, and then, oh, cool, there's a 5:30 a.m. flight back on Sunday, and that'll get me back by 3 in the afternoon Eastern time, and I'll still be able to have dinner with my kid and put him to bed. And I'll be like a half-dead zombie around my family. That's another thing where I'm like, I fight so hard to minimize the time on the road, and it just means that the road life becomes all travel and logistics and no relaxation. Like, sleeping in a hotel is cool to like have nights where I'm not getting woken up after 3.5 years of this screaming child finding excuses to wake me up. Outside of that, though, I'm like, oh, the charm of it just wears off. It just beats the shit out of you. It beats the shit out of you.